nice to have you here, Bruce. How many years have we known each other?
15 years.
15. Oh my gosh, wow. Because I remember when I met you, we were meeting over in Encino, and weren't you doing, I think you were you would finance hotels and stuff like that. You were doing something very different back in the day.
Yes, back then I had just left Shamrock Holdings and
Mm-hmm.
I started working for a private debt fund, and we wanted to start doing hotel loans, which I had managed $100 million hotel fund on behalf of Shamrock. So
Mm-hmm.
the private lender hired me to start originating hotel loans because they did not have the capability. But
Mm-hmm.
after about 3, 4 years of that, they decided they just wanted to go more traditional of retail,
Mm-hmm.
office, apartment, industrial, and single family. So yeah, that was 3, 4 years was great, but that part of it ended.
It was a good run. And so
Yeah,
now you're working more as a consultant. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do, what your specialty is, your niche?
sure. Thank you. So about 18 months ago, I did leave the private lending side. It was becoming way too competitive. There were too many other private debt funds who were willing to basically offer better terms than I thought was really underwritable. And
Uh-huh.
I decided to do a pivot. And I decided, something, there are a lot of elderly people who have accumulated real estate over their lives, and yet they've never really created what I would call an exit plan or a succession plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I work with them and help them come up with something, God forbid, if catastrophic happens, if they have a stroke or worse, if they die, what do their beneficiaries inherit it? And
Mm-hmm.
what can we do to minimize the stress of that transition
Mm-hmm.
from the parent to, let's say, the children, and owning and managing real estate? So, how do we simplify that? Come up with a game plan and say, hold, sell, refinance. How do you deal with death taxes and things of that nature?
That's great. And you really, I think of you too. If there was someone has a portfolio that they want to optimize, that you can look at that and give them like an in-depth analysis because a lot of people can't look at it from the outside in and don't have the experience you have either.
Well, a lot of times people just, the one thing I find is no matter what you're doing, if you're too close to it, you never can then take an outside look in and say, are there any cracks developing? Just like,
Mm-hmm.
you're selling a home, and if you don't pull up the carpeting, you may not know if there's a crack under the slab. And until you
Mm-hmm.
investigate that, where is the crack starting? Is it going to get bigger or is it contained? But are you going to want to try to repair it yourself, or are you going to bring in a specialist to look at the crack and say, how do I fix it? And that's sort of how my analogy is when you find a crack in the foundation of your portfolio, bring in an expert to help you fix it and figure out is there, what the best solution is so that it solves the problem, long term, not short term.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, the thing I've always liked about you, 15 years, I still can't even believe that, but is that for one, you've always been very nice to me, which is very appreciated. And we've been, I like the fact that you act as a fiduciary to your clients. That's what you're known for, really actually giving a crap about people. And you want to help people, you want to do right by people. And that's one of the things that really stands out. Plus, you happen to know your stuff. I mean, obviously, it's so clear. And so, amazing reputation. It's an honor to know you. It really is. So,
Well, it's always
I'm
good to know you.
thinking, now that I said nice things about you, um, I bet you have a couple of little real estate health stories, don't you?
Oh, I got one or two probably.
You got like 10 or 20?
Yeah.
All right, well,
So,
let's hear one of them.
okay. So must have been, God, this is what really got me into the consulting. 3 years ago, a wife inherited a property from her deceased husband, and it was a tenant in common, and she didn't know what to do with it. So she hired me, and I came in and I'm looking at it and saying, you know, it's a really nice historic building, but it's got all kinds of problems, and I think you've got some tenant risk. So I think probably the building's worth $10 million.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
went to the other two owners. They were buddies from way back, and they both said property's worth $12 million, $15 million. And I said,
Hmm.
well, then you have no problem buying us out at $10 million because we want out. And I said, there's a buy sell agreement. It's not
Hmm.
well drafted, but I said we'll buy it from you for $10 million, or you can buy it from us. I said that's how it works, and if you
Hmm.
believe it's worth 15, you should buy it from us. They ended up saying, I don't think we want to buy it for 10 million. And I go, well, then let's sell it for 10 million.
Hmm.
And it took them a while, but we ended up selling this building for $10 million.
Hmm.
Sold it to a person, a group, and sure enough, about 6 months later, the two anchor tenants both went bankrupt. They discovered that the roof did not have the right strength to hold air conditioning units. That's why the building had never had air conditioning.
Oh
That
man.
the pre the bricks were not reinforced, so for a major earthquake, it could come down. And these were all things that I had told the tenants in common. This is what you're looking at if you want to continue to own the property. So
Right.
it turned out that not only did I did my client a good favor getting her top dollar for the property, the other two were very thankful. One actually then hired me to do a 1031 exchange for them because their basis was very low. So it turned out to be a win-win for myself and all three of the tenants in common. But it was just again people just believing what they want to believe and not
Hmm.
taking a third person who realize here's what the property really is worth and here's what it's going to cost to really correct the deficiencies. And it took them a while to figure it out that I was right and they were
Uh-huh.
almost right.
So that's great. You analyzed the property and you realized the pros and cons of it, and then you end up getting top dollar for it. And then you
Yep.
go out and find something better for them. It could be, top dollar for a disastrous property. Not bad.
Yep. Yeah.
Not bad. What else you got there?
You know, I have to admit, I was a trustee of a trust.
Hmm.
Children inherited a home and nobody knew what to do. I needed to hire a realtor who I could trust, who also then I can make sure that the beneficiaries could trust. And who could
Hmm.
that possibly be? It could only
Gosh, I
be
don't know.
you know, buy, sell. And it was a very challenging situation. You undertook it. You knew my sister in law lived in the house. It was very challenging. It was in terrible condition. And I just said, find the right buyer, no contingency. And what did you
Right.
do? In 2 weeks, you found the right buyer? And that's a testament to what you do for your clients is you hear what they need and then you deliver. So again, I really thank you because you made my life so simple through that process. And it was very challenging on my side to manage, you know, the beneficiaries of the trust, but I knew that you being behind me, I had all the answers. I had, they had questions, and that again turned out to be a great thing. I think we closed that in like 30 days, all cash,
Yeah.
no contingency. And then you ended up selling it for big bucks about a year and a half later after they did the renovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was advising you to maybe, let's go to market. Maybe we can get more. And then it turns out we don't go to market. You get an as is offer, non contingent. And it turns out a lot of the things you thought were wrong with the property were wrong. It's
Yep.
just the way it goes. It's the nature of it. But at the end of the day, it turned out to be a win-win.
Yeah.
The developer, yeah, he would have liked to have made more, but he did the right thing. He fixed the things that were wrong, and you disclosed everything you knew, and so he was the right guy because
Yeah.
you have to have a guy that does what he says he's going to do. Otherwise, these situations are awful.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
that
do
was
appreciate it.
just
I
a
always thought it
little
was funny
history on.
because whenever I go to, if I've gone to sign up for your group, and I know that you usually have just the local agents there, and they're really good. And so I thought, gosh, I wonder if he's ever going to use me again. He doesn't like me anymore. And then all of a sudden you called me and said, "Hey Scott, would you like this?" And I went, "He likes me. He still likes me." I was so.
You know, there's a difference between, having you attend a meeting and then saying, no, Scott Nell is the right realtor for this
Oh, I appreciate
project
that.
and do that. I mean, it doesn't take a brain to figure out who to use.
No, all I can say is that I know you know a lot of people, a lot of agents, because you're very
Yeah.
connected. So I do appreciate it, very, very much that you gave me the opportunity. It was my pleasure to do it, but it's also how I support my family. So thank you for
Yep,
that.
I understand that. Yep.
Look at all this ooey
So,
gooey stuff. There's got to be another hell story.
so I was introduced to a client who owned 23 condos in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
He had first bought 10 of them through a 1031 exchange. And I remember he came to me the first time and said, "What do you think about this deal?" And I go, "Well, on paper, it sounds great. You're going to get, you're buying it for each unit for $125,000. The
Mm-hmm.
developer converted apartments to condos, and he's going to pay you 10% on your money." I go, on paper, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds great, but what happens if it goes back, sideways? What recourse do you have against the developer? And he goes, "Oh no, this
Mm-hmm.
is great property." And I said, "Okay, buyer beware. Just let you know that." And about 6 months ago, he called up and said the developer went bankrupt.
Oh no.
I'm now, and there's out of 138 condos, there are like 65 different owners. He says, "I'm now on the HOA board,
Mm-hmm.
and I also just bought another 20, 25 condos for $75,000 because people wanted to get out. But
Mm-hmm.
now I want to do something else, and how do I get out of this?"
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, "Well, how many really owners are there in this 138 units?" And he said, "Well, there's about 10 of us who control about 90% of the units." And I said, "You got to have a meeting with them. And I think what you need to do is you got to all agree to sell your units at one time. And I bet you I can find a developer who will buy all the units at a reasonable price and take them from condos and convert them back to an apartments."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Can you do that?" And I go, "You can do anything as long as the price is right." I go,
Mm-hmm.
"But you've got to figure out what's their pain point in terms of selling." And about 30 days ago, we entered into escrow to sell these 138 units. Everybody
Wow.
signed on board. One person is going to buy them all, and then they're going to do the simultaneous closing on 35 different owners to convert it, and they're going to take all the condos and then convert it back into an apartment building, which is what it should have been because there were so many vacancies because every owner was competing with every other owner in terms of
Right.
what they wanted for rent, what kind of tenant they wanted to rent to, and hopefully this thing will close and it'll make my client very happy, even though he'll lose money. But he actually has now he doesn't have, he could sell something and he's got enough capital gain losses from this
Hmm.
one project that he can then sell a property and just not have to even do a 1031 exchange. So hopefully I'll help him with that assignment when it comes up early next year.
Awesome. You know, when we're networking together, I think you should choose a story like this each time because it really kind of it shows what you do. They came
Yeah.
to you, how the hell do I get out of this? There's all these moving parts. They don't know what to do. They're thinking they're going to lose their shirt, and at the end of the day, you figure it out for them, and you're worth your weight in gold.
Yeah. The problem is that many of them just say, "You want how much an hour?" And if you can't afford it, then I don't want to work for you either. So that's the good thing about consulting is you can choose your clients.
Hmm. Well, when someone questions my fee, I'm going like, do you realize? I mean, what I'm bringing to the table, I'm not just advising sell it as is and let's make a quick dollar. We're really looking at this fully. We're going to really figure out how to get you to the best net, how to protect, and there's 20 years of experience here. I said, I put so much more time and money and effort than most people. I said, that's why you're paying me this. And at the end of it, they're usually good with it. At the end of it, they go, okay, I get that. Because it is the truth. It's just like, I put a lot of extra time and money into it. And,
Yep.
so it makes a big difference.
Well, there is a slogan, what, truth sells?
Yeah, hey, you got
Yeah.
that.
And the thing is about, your listings. I mean, I've seen them on Facebook. I mean, your drones of the property
Yeah,
and then your photos and you're showing the potential of a property, which I think a lot of agents just, okay, I'm just going to go in and take a couple pictures and just say, okay, here's what the house is, and they're
right.
listing it. And no, you're selling it. You're not listing it. There's to me is a big difference between a lot of the realtors out there today.
Well, I appreciate it. The truth is, we know a lot of the same realtors, and the truth is, it's a great selection. I mean, it's some really top notch professionals, and so I feel fortunate to be, rubbing elbows with them.
Yeah,
I've got a deal right now where it was very complicated. I won't go to any specifics except for the person. There was so much stress. She was thinking maybe she just should sell it as is. And I said, well, why? If we sell it as is, this house it's beat up pretty badly. I think you're going to get hit really hard, especially in today's market. And so we ended up putting together the funds to prep it. And instead of listing it at 750, after investing about 60 into it, we listed it at 950, got multiple offers, and we're out the door at, over a million, which is, 150,000 plus net gain. And I'm looking at that and I go, see what happens when you take the time. But it took months to get to that point. I could have had a
yeah,
paycheck months earlier, but
yeah,
I didn't feel like it was the right thing. So I feel good when I'm able to do that kind of stuff.
yeah. It's interesting is something that you can think about for some of your fix
Hmm.
and flippers. There's a fix and flip operator who's done 3 or 4 homes in the neighborhood I live in, does does very well. He buys the house, it's in really bad condition, does a major renovation, then he sells it. He bought
Hmm.
another home, and this time he bought it as is, and he's selling it as is with a small profit, but basically saying, here's what it looks like, but you can now pick what the kitchen's going to look like, what the
Hmm.
bathrooms are going to
Oh,
look
that's
like, what
clever.
flooring. And
Hmm.
here's all my product. You can go see the workmanship I've done. And now let's come up with a budget for you. And I will now build it for you. And, you know, you'll buy it from me. And, I will now give the money. And he's now got a client or a buyer who's getting the house of their dreams and probably would have
Hmm.
paid the same amount of money, but now it's got the appliances they want, the finishes. I mean, I
Right.
just think that's a very unique type of difference now is what he's doing, and I'm trying to get him now to even go out and raise a small fund so that he can maybe
Hmm.
2 or 3 of these a year instead of one. So
Hmm.
uh, very, to me, it's very unique. Is that buy a home and say, nope,
Right.
I'm gonna fix and flip it. I'm gonna just. sell it and fix it for the new owner. It's
I think that's a really clever model. Plus, it eliminates the risk for him, and then it's easier to find because he basically showing them the vision. But you can replace this, this, this. But you got to be a patient person to do that because if you get the wrong buyers and they change and they
oh yeah.
change and they change, I
There's
would.
a pretty good
That'd be
contract
tough.
on that. Yeah. But another
Yeah.
thing is that I'm trying to explore with somebody else right now is,
Hmm.
so many people own these second homes. I mean, they're rental properties, and they're coming to
Hmm.
me and they're saying, okay, now I'm tired of owning 4 or 5 rental properties. And what can I do? And I go, well, you can do a 1031 exchange. You could sell all of them at once and do a 1031 exchange. But if you don't want to be in management, you can now invest them in a Delaware statutory trust. And instead
Right.
of going, you know, you know, five homes with maybe $1.5 million of equity, you can take that and put it in a Delaware statutory trust and have no problem whatsoever. So
Hmm.
you how many of your clients own properties? You should be speaking to them about, have you thought about getting out of the rental business and selling
Right.
them, and maybe investing in something a little bit more passive? I mean, because the last
Right.
thing everybody wants is, because my clients are now saying, I'm tired of tenants, toilets, trash, termites. And I go, well, it's time to start selling. So I'm working on with a couple clients now on convincing them to, sell their rental portfolio and
Hmm.
try to come up with a plan on how they can reinvest it. The problem is selling all homes. So you got probably one in escrow, two. So you got to be able to that's why I think a Delaware statutory trust makes sense. Is there's so
Right.
many of them out there that you can take $500,000, put it into one, sell another one, put 500,000 in, and the next thing you know, you've gone from very active management to very passive. So
Right.
that's
Right.
my next thing I'm trying to get my clients to do. So that's a
Well,
tidbit for you: is reach out to your clients and tell them
mhm.
sell,
Right, right.
get out
That's
of
the great thing
yeah,
about the people that you and I hang out with is that there's so many great options. And because you can do like a 1031 alternative, you can do, triple net. There's so many different ways to go. And someone like you knows that. And
yeah.
it's amazing to me how many people can be worth so many millions of dollars but don't understand what they don't know what you know. And so, which again is why I say you're worth your weight in gold. Or should I say platinum?
Yeah, platinum. Yeah, doesn't matter. But it's
Either way.
until you get them to admit what is their real pain, and then when they
Hmm.
finally say, God, I still got to deal with tenant calls, and the tenant moved out, and I got to now do all this work, and I go, why are you, yeah, you're getting good returns, and definitely you've got an appreciated asset, and but maybe it's time to slow down and enjoy life. That's
I couldn't
what
agree
I find.
more. Well, I look at because my wife and I have a triplex, and look at some of the challenges that we've had. But then I keep on thinking, I'm in the business. Just consider this part of my workday. So I'm going to make sure I
Yeah,
keep it rented out, keep on optimizing it, keep on doing all the preventative maintenance. This is part of our retirement and part of my business. So that's how I rationalize it with me. Whereas
yeah,
I look at some people that are managing these portfolios in their 70s, 80s. I'm like, why? Why? There's so many things you can do. Shouldn't you be traveling? There's so much you could be doing right now. I don't know why you're doing this.
yeah. But I was introduced to a young gentleman who his grandfather is now bringing him into the business. So they're now creating a succession plan, and he
Hmm.
has probably the most capable mind of managing real estate, and he's hiring me just as his kind of like a mentor, because he doesn't
Hmm.
want to go to his grandfather and ask him, well, what do we do about this, what do we do about
Oh, that's
that?
awesome.
So he'll call me up and say, okay, for $500, I've had a great conversation, And now I can go to grandfather and go, if we do this and this, we can probably get this, return, and we'll get a return in 3 to 5 years. And maybe we should think about refinancing the property now, and here's why, instead of, being so. But I really like the fact that the grandfather, and his brother, the two grandparents, they've owned property for 70 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they're now looking at the next generation, saying, you know, we got to now bring in the younger ones into the real estate so that they can take it over. But they're
Right.
in it for, this is a generational thing. They're never going to sell, but if their grandchildren aren't involved, then it will fall apart. So they're
Mm-hmm.
starting it, and guys, so he's looking at saying, this is what a great opportunity for me.
I love
And
it. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
I think you're a steal. You know,
Well, thank
anytime
you.
someone you give them that kind of advice that's going to make their lives better and make them so much more money over time. Yeah, you tell them they're lucky you're not charging 10 times that.
Yeah, no.
Hey, so Bruce, do you have anything, any charity or cause you'd like to shine a light on? We always like to end things with something from the heart.
You know, diabetes runs in my family. Uh, my grandfather died from diabetes. Both my mother and father died complications from diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
I go to a diabetic doctor to make sure I keep my blood sugar level proper. So it's just something that it's in my family. My siblings have to look at it too. So we're all very supportive of the Diabetic Society, and doing research to figure out ways to reduce the side effects of diabetes, because it does kill, unfortunately. And it
Yeah, I didn't know
like I
much
said,
about it until. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I said, it's important for people to be educated about why diabetes is an important disease to, you know, fix.
Absolutely. I knew very little about. I don't know a ton about it, but until I found out, my uncle who was elderly, I started overseeing his care and everything, and I realized, wow, look what you're going through, and bit by bit, it steadily got worse. The fact that he was able to even stay on his feet until like 87, 88 was pretty amazing, considering everything he was going through. But then again, he's not like a guy like you who actually takes care. He didn't take care of himself the same way, and so
Yeah.
I think that's crucial.
Well, no, I've been going, yeah. So my physician, his specialty is diabetes, because I think it
Perfect.
runs in his family too. So he's definitely the right person for me and my family.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I told you it was going to be quick and easy, didn't I?
Yes, you
That was
did.
pretty painless.